The live stream. Working. Hold on. Not. Ah, we are live.
We are live, yeah. So really good content we're sharing so far, aren't we?
Good job. There's only one person watching, and it's me. So.
I was watching a minute ago because I just shared the
Yeah,
link.
same here.
Oh! You just shared it.
Yeah.
Oh, have you? Fine. Okay. I was trying to find it to share it.
No, you crack on, mate. You crack on.
All right. Hold on. Let me just. I need to see if I need to get the live chat up because there's obviously going to be an absolute ton of people in the live chat. So
They will be popping, yeah.
yeah, I can well imagine it's popping. I've got my charger in case.
It'll
Right.
be it'll be spinning harder than my washing machine. That chat. So
Is that rocking in the background?
yeah,
This is like the beginning of Stick to Football, where they just talk about life.
croissants.
Croissants. Absolutely. Talk about croissants. Right, chaps. I'll start recording for the actual podcast for after. Let me just share screens and we will be rocking. To anyone who's watching right now, thank you very much for being bothered. I very much appreciate it. Right, here we go. Let's go on to here. And
Oh, my mum's watching.
Shay, hello,
Hi, Mum.
Judith. And I'm just going to start recording. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of the All in Football Fantasy Premier League show and podcast. It's episode 133, and we are live. Thank you ever so much for everyone for joining us so far. There is one person in the chat, and that is Judith. Thank you ever so much for joining us. Usual suspects today. Barry, where in the world are you?
Usual spot and Rawindar Duruk. That means I'm good, thank you. In Welsh, I've been learning since I've been watching Wales in on S4C. So learning a bit of the lingo. So yeah, in usual spot, trying to obviously reminisce my above average performances, but still getting red arrows. So God knows what's happening there. So these bloody manager chips. But hey, we go on.
Listen, at least nothing changes. At least you're consistent, Baz. Scott, you didn't have an international break.
Scunthorpe? No. them years are very much gone.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good. And more importantly, my team's doing very good. Massive win, massive record-breaking win a couple of weeks ago against Chester, setting the league record for that step of football. Over 8,000 fans is amazing. So yeah, 6 cup finals to go for my boys, and a few cup finals to go for me because bloody hell, I want to win our mini league, not the pod, the mini league.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, Harmony League, you are top at the moment, aren't you? So that's all going
Yeah,
well
by
for you.
1 point.
Yeah, nice and tight. It's getting to that time of the season now where people are starting to care about the money leagues, or like me and Baz, just throw the towel in and just focus solely on the cup. But we'll touch on that soon. I think it's game week 32. Our cup starts. I remember touched on that previously, so very exciting. Don't forget, anybody who's listening to this afterwards or watching it now, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to give us 5 stars wherever you get your podcasts from, and click the little notification icon, then you'll know when we've gone live. And follow us on our social media platforms of More Pod, of More P, on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Don't forget to follow the FPL Affairs Facebook page as well on Facebook, where Barry Stokes, our differential king, posts some good graphics. And I think we might have a special guest on later on from that podcast itself. So stay tuned. Got to do Manager of the Week, first of all. Unfortunately enough, it was the guy who was top of the Manager of the Month award as well. So congratulations to Ross Aldridge. It was a short month of March, but 91 points. Remember I said a little while ago, there's no point playing your free hit chip? Yeah, not this week. There's no point. Classically, the top 5 scorers this week all got in the 90s, 80s, and one got late 70s with their free hit played. So, yeah, well done to you guys if you nailed the players to pick. Sells in goal, Nuri, Dallo, Gabriel, Bowen, Elanga, Bruno Fernandes, captain. Scott, let's not talk about that one. We both hovered over Bruno, and just damn it, going for Chris Wood. And Bumo, Evan Nilsson, Wood, and Haaland on his bench. He had Robertson, who got 7 points, but Palmer, who didn't play, and he got Elanga off his bench for Palmer, who didn't play. There's that 16 points right there for you to take you to Manager of the Week and Manager of the Month, Ross. You sometimes need a little bit of luck, don't you? Game Week ranked 19,000th in the world out of 11 million. So well done to you, Ross. I've got to give a shout out as well to Ryan Walk, who's in Baz's favourite position in the league, 69th, 77 points. He did take a minus 12 with 4 transfers to cover it off. So you did get the highest score overall without using any chips, but 65 net. But fair play to you. The Bruno Fernandes captain was the thing. That was the big moment. Scott, gutted about that one actually. Could have been
tough one. Tough one. Yeah, I've just seen how poor he did in March, actually. Can't wait to get rid of March. My days, an awful month.
Yeah, it wasn't a good month for us total. Baz, where were you in March?
I've gave up looking at that. I'm just playing for the cup, as we talked about.
Yeah, it's the cup's in the start. We'll keep going for both of us,
yeah.
all of us.
About triple figures, probably.
Even FPL Hardcore is only 40th. None of us are on the first page.
Oh, 47.
No, 47. Join with mum.
Yeah. 109 points overall. So the reason we're doing a live podcast, everybody, is because the FA Cup games have happened and we've got a very short turnaround before the deadline tomorrow. And there are 2 very quick game weeks now in FPL. First deadline is, like I say, tomorrow, Tuesdays. And it's at 6:15. Because the first kickoff is at 7:45, which is Arsenal Fulham. Then we've got Wolves, West Ham, and Forest Man United straight after that. Can't wait to get beaten by Forest. But then the kickoff after that, so the deadline after that is at 11 o'clock on Saturday, the 5th of April. So we've got 2 back-to-back game weeks here that are very close together. And we've had near enough confirmation of blanks and doubles. This is the good old Ben Crellin's graph that he has, and we'll get ours up in a second, Baz. Don't you worry. Which has got it's got the fixture difficulties on as ours. But here is an overview of blanks and doubles. Confirmed double game week 32 for Crystal Palace and Newcastle. Crystal Palace have City and Newcastle both away. Great double. Don't get me wrong, in good form, Palace, but not the best double in the world. But Newcastle have Man U at home and Palace at home, which feels to me like an excellent double. It makes Newcastle's fixtures look very good moving forward. Brentford at home this week, game week 30, then Leicester away in 31, double game week 32, then Villa away 33, not the easiest, but then Ipswich at home, Brighton away, and Chelsea at home, Arsenal away, Everton at home to finish off the season. We think because Crystal Palace, Man City, and Aston Villa all got through, and who was the other team that got through, Baz? Remind me. Forest. There you go. Easy as that. They're right there. We think that the double game weeks are going to fall into game weeks 33. Now, the reason for that, there are a couple of reasons for it. Because Arsenal are still in the Champions League, aren't they? That's a reminder. Yeah. So are Villa. They're still in the Champions League, but City are the ones that are out. to avoid potential fixture congestion later on down the line, I'm almost certain that those rearranged fixtures, especially Palace Arsenal and City Villa, will go into 33 rather than pushing down to double game week 36. And I think that's almost certainly the way that they'll go about it. Now, with Nottingham Forest's game in game week 33 and game week 35, both being on Monday nights, and the fact that their fixture against Brentford could quite easily move into stay in game week 34 and move to a different time. We think that's more than likely to stay in game week 34 to also avoid a potential fixture congestion for Nottingham Forest towards the end of the season. So I think we've got game week 32, game week 32, and double game week 33 pretty much locked up here. And I also think single game week, blank game week 34 is pretty much locked up as you see it here in front of us. So I'll just get up what Barry's created. So thank you ever so much, Barry. So it's got the fixture difficulty ratings on there. I think all the way up till game week 36, so 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35, I think this is basically nailed on to where the fixtures are going to be. Basically. You do never know how they're going to get moved around. But Barry, your thoughts on the double game week in 32 for these two teams, and also double game week in 33? Are you looking at chip strategy, players to invest in? Over to you.
So with Palace, as we talked about, it's a very difficult one, but they're in good form. So Mateta's come back as well. Didn't look very, very good against Fulham, but obviously it might be that mass that's hindered him, and it was warm, so that might obviously affected him as well. Eze looked good, Sarr looked good. You got Munaz as well, Henderson as well as a potential cheap alternative for a keeper. Newcastle could be a potential option for a triple captain if you've still got that chip, because I've still got it. I was just hoping that it was going to fall. The City fixture was going to be Southampton and Bournemouth for my double game week for my triple captain on Haaland, but he might not even be fit because he came off with an ankle injury. So I might be swayed to put it on Isaac for that game week 32. So, and then bench boost 33. So, and setting up my wild card to get that back right. So my wild card will be looking at game week 31. I'm not doing it now till tomorrow, basically. So it will be game week 31. I'll be doing it, and I'll be clicking it straight at once the deadline's done. Be clicking it and then setting up my team, especially with that. So yeah, that's my plan.
So one of the debates is 30 versus 31 in terms of wild card. I think a lot of it depends if you've still got your assistant manager chip left. If I'm honest, I think that's probably one of the biggest points, because we've already seen how powerful the assistant manager chip is if you get it right, and we've got an opportunity here to use it in 2 double game weeks, and there's no doubt about it for me, looking at this, that it'll be free hit 34. That for me is nailed on. Looking at the wild card that I'll be implementing, I'll be trying to get triple Arsenal in there. I'll almost certainly, with these fixtures as well, trying to get at least 2 Villa players in there as well. I look at Crystal Palace. I'll probably be going for 2, if not 3 Palace assets off the back of these as well. I know they've got a tough double game week in 32. But they've got 2 great fixtures before then, even if you didn't want to invest in the double game weeks. And all those teams as well, they're blanking 34. City as well have got to be considered. They've looked in half decent form, that's for sure. If Haaland's out, then Marmoush is basically a nailed on wild card asset at 7.3. Looks good, play up top. Absolutely, it's going to be probably him and maybe Mr. Guardiola. We'll see, but they'll be in. But all of those players don't play in 34, and even though the fixtures in 34 don't look exactly incredible in terms of teams to pick, fixtures to pick, when you'd have triple Newcastle in there anyway, they're already playing Ipswich for an example. I'll have too many players blanking if I want to really attack these doubles. So, Scott, you're looking at this for the first time since probably looking at FPL for the first time in 3 weeks, aren't you? 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Yeah, I couldn't remember my log on, to be honest with you. So,
what are your initial thoughts off the back of just the conversation that Baz and I have just had? You've still got your free hit, bench boost, and wildcard left, haven't you? Those are your 3 chips.
not bench boost, I've used that.
You use that. So you've got your that's probably even less complicated for you then, isn't it, really? Let's be honest. Any thoughts about your chip strategy?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's the obvious coloration, isn't there? But who's made it through to the semi-finals? Therefore, they're gonna, a lot of them are gonna blank, aren't they? And I would say the 4 teams, obviously, that's made it through to the semis. This might be a Michael Owen-esque quote, but they're all having good seasons. Obviously, City's is underwhelming for City, but it's still City. So it's not like you've got a team. Sometimes you'll get a team that gets to the semi-final that's kind of hit a few League Two, League One teams and kind of just maybe won a quarter final against like a Preston, for instance. I know all of a sudden, they've kind of fluked the way there where you think, actually, not too many of their assets, but you've listed there, like you do really want to look at attacking those teams like your Forest, your Palace, Villa, and like you say, you'll definitely probably everyone will have Mamouche now. It just makes that decision a bit easier. Obviously, Haaland was a lot of money anyway, so yeah, and it just like you say, you want to. My clear thing is it's just copy and paste what you said. You want to attack those doubles that are really tantalising in game week 32. If you're going to attack them, your team for 34 is not going to be set up ideally because you're going to have a lot of players blanking. So therefore, for me, probably going to wildcard in the next 2 weeks, set up for attack those 32, free hit 34. Away I go. Nice, simple decision.
Well, with your only 2 chips left, it makes total sense. I mean, I think when I looked at your team, obviously we spoke on Saturday about it. I think I look at your team, I probably hold off the full information before game week 31 and wildcard 31. I completely agree. I think Baz is exactly the same. Where it really lands is on me in terms of my assistant manager chip, because if I play it in 32, I've got to play it in 34 and I can't free hit. So it locks me in.
It goes back to one of the reasons I hate that chip, because you kind of think, I've got a chip, I'll use it this week, but because the chip was it for 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
That just lingers on, doesn't it, man? I think going back to what Baz said, if you're going to do the chip, maybe do it where like you can use it twice, but you can just pick maybe like the week to do it. I don't know. I just think it's a rubbish chip. I've thought a lot about it. I hate it.
Yeah, it's one of those things for me now where it's stopping me. My other options are wildcard 31, bench boost 33, free hit 34, and then I should know the landscape for the double game week 36 if it exists at all, because there's a chance it might not exist at all, because they could push all the fixtures into midweek game week 37, that will blank in the final, because that the FA Cup final isn't after the end of the season this season. It's during game week 37. So it's before the end of the actual Premier League season. So there's a chance that there won't be a double game week in 36 and there won't be any blanks in 37.
We don't know. Just say, like, just a more of a general football thing. I didn't know that it wasn't in the season. My guess as to why it's in the season, I bet it's the bloody World Cup, the Club World Cup. So they've basically diluted the FA Cup, because the FA Cup is so much better when it's the end of the season. It's there. It's not like condensed between Premier League fixtures, and they're diluting that to favour a Club World Cup, and then they've diluted the FA Cup in the early rounds anyway and killed the smaller teams. Mm-hmm. It's so bad.
It's awful, isn't it? It's terrible. And you also. The other thing as well, I mean, not that anyone else here cares about the Europa League, but, it's my entire season now. So I only care about the Europa League and FPL. Come on, United! Leon next. The Europa League final is midweek, game week 37. So, like, fortunately, we're not playing for anything in the league, obviously, other than, fortunately, we won't get relegated now. So we're literally all of our league. It doesn't matter what we do in the league, any games now. But let's say, for example, it did matter, we'd having the biggest game of our season before a final day match against Aston Villa.
And
I hate
also,
the way fixtures land.
one thing as well, really quickly, and there's lots to go through. And clubs like yours that are in this Club World Cup, Spurs as well, they're
We're not
going
in
to
it.
potentially. I don't know.
We're,
Okay, so
we're not in it.
No, Chelsea
clubs
and
like
City.
Just
Man
Chelsea and
United,
City, yeah.
Man United, then it's probably your key example there. They're going to look at that last game of the season and go, "We've got nothing to play for. It's 100 million for the winner." I bet Radcliffe's probably nudging Almiron, going, "Ooh, maybe rest some of the big boys for this. Could do with 100 million for winning the Club World Cup."
Well, we're not in the Club World Cup, but
Oh,
it's Chelsea and City that are in
all
it.
right then. Well, like a Chelsea then, like
Yeah.
whoever, like really, do you know what I mean? Like it's
Well,
ridiculous.
if City have got top four locked up, they're not obviously not going to win the league. Well, I mean, they play Fulham last day of the season. They're just not going to. They're just going to, potentially rest some players because they have to play their first. They've got all those rules in that you have to have a certain amount of first team players go to the Club World Cup, so they can't just send the kids. Like
But they're not going to anyway. There's too much money. The owners are not going to allow that when there's 100
well,
million for the winner.
it's such a farce, and it's just the Trump Cup nowadays,
But,
anyway, isn't it?
but then when they play Fulham and the rest of the team, and Fulham are fighting for Europe they get an easier fixture and screw over a Bournemouth. Oh, I'm massively against it.
Yeah,
So against it.
yeah. But it's just like they're just trying to fill a space when there's not European, not international football. But there is still international football before then, because there's two international games, isn't there, before the Club World Cup? These players, I mean, don't get me wrong, like they moan about the amount of games and stuff, but I mean, it is to play at that physical elite level of football. They're not playing five-a-side at goals twice a week. I mean, that takes
That
enough.
is
I think,
pretty
Scott.
tough. That's pretty tough.
I think it takes enough, Scott. Like, never mind 2 games of Premier League football, 90 minutes. Some of these guys, absolutely madness. Yeah, let's just have a. Let me just cover off a little bit of chip stuff because we've touched on it. Then it seems pretty obvious if you've got your wild card left that your best week to bench boost will be 33. There's enough cheap options across your villas and your palaces, probably to have a couple of double game week players on your bench at least. I know if somebody's setting up for potentially a bench boost, maybe a Henderson, like Baz has said, when he was looking at his rotation for a team that will double in 33. If somebody's going for a set and forget keeper like Raya, you could go Raya and Henderson for an example. Obviously, both blank in 34. And then if you wanted to release some funds, you could then, take one of those out later on. But yeah, there's enough cheap players across these teams. Someone like Rodgers remains appealing, probably for these fixtures, for an example. Yeah, Baz, I'm assuming when our conversation you've had to think about players that you would have to bring in for wildcard 31, bench boost 33.
Yeah, there's loads. I could list them all, but I'll be going to like 0.1% differentials and all this. So
Yeah, but cheap ones is important, Baz. That's what we're sort of looking at really for filling benches.
yeah, there's obviously Saar, but obviously he's not cheap. Well, he's not cheap, but he's not low on percentage. You can even go crazy because Adam Wharton plays actually pretty decent for Palace, but I was looking at some of his expected goal involvements, and I was like, actually, I'm probably talking a load of rubbish by mentioning that. But he takes set pieces, and Palace is pretty dangerous at set pieces, especially with Richards as well. Could be a good differential for a defender if you haven't got money for Munoz. He's 4.4 million. So I think that's a potential good shout. I think he's going to be someone that I'll be looking at wild carding in. So yeah, I think that could be a potential option on that and a few others. But yeah, not for everyone by talking about it. And
No,
I'll, I'll post something a bit later down the line with a few potential options. I'll do another graphic with budget midfielders. I'll do that from game week 31 till the end of the season.
yeah.
Surprised,
Well,
surprised Ben Chilwell's not on more minutes. He's been injured. I didn't even realise he was at Palace. I was watching match of the day the other week. I was like, what's he doing there?
Yeah,
Maybe because Mitchell's playing so good.
yeah, Mitchell is. Yeah, Mitchell's playing really good, and he's in that point. Sorry, Baz, I didn't bring up your goalkeeper rotation when I was mentioning goalkeepers. I forgot to bring up the graphic. Here's Baz's goalkeeper rotation, which is also very important when it comes down to the defensive rotation, which is what we were just talking about. To be fair, yeah, Chilwell's there because of Mitchell, but you pointed out Disasi Scott, 4.2 million. If Lewis is playing for City at 4.3 million, someone like Mings and Konsa are both 4.4. So it's cash, depending on who's playing. Chris Richards is 4.4. There's some really, I mean, even the troll himself, Luca Dini, is only 4.5. When you're making your way through this list of players, yeah, Munoz at 5.1 seems pretty obviously nailed in anyone's teams if they're wildcarding and bench boosting. There's a lot of cheap defenders, and that's where hopefully you can top up with your 4.4s and your 4.5s in there, and you can have two defenders playing two fixtures.
Can I just say something really quickly? Baz looks so much like Ella Henderson, Dean Henderson.
Yeah, just a tubby
I
version.
keep going to the river to pray. Hey, go on, Baz, give us a rendition.
No, mate. You want people to watch, not to turn off.
I'd watch that.
Yeah? All right, I'll do a short then, shall
Yeah. Oh yeah, get on the TikTok.
I should on TikTok live. God, this was my opportunity. Anyway, I can't do that through my computer anyway. This is this laptop I get. It's just TikTok and everything. It'd be awful. But yeah, so yeah, we've got I agree with the say the bottom one, Baz, as I mentioned before. And then yeah, you've got some goalkeeper rotation above here. Do you want to have a quick chat through this? Because I think it's more team rotation than keeper rotation when you're looking at
Yeah,
future
so obviously you previously mentioned Raya and Henderson, but that's quite a lot of money tied up in your goalkeepers. And you know what I'm like with my goalkeepers and defenders, try and spend as less as possible. I do like the Henderson and Areola, especially if you're bench boosting. West Ham's got Southampton at home. Yes, Southampton tend to score, but West Ham are playing like a five at the back now, so they're getting a bit more solider. So for me, I think that's a potential option. But do we trust City's defence? Probably not. You're not going to get a lot of save points with Edison as well. So that was the only one that I'm thinking could be a different option for people. And I just thought they look rotate pretty well with Edison, with Kepa, Henderson, Areola, or Sarr.
Yeah,
So yes,
I like the Henderson. I like the Henderson and Areola from this graphic, especially with the free hit in 34. I think there's only really game week 35 that I'm not a fan of it. Yeah, 36 you'd play Areola against Man United all day long, and then yeah, you've got so 35, 36 isn't obviously the greatest, but yeah, I think you probably start Areola in both of those games. Yeah, and then other than that, it looks like a good selection, I think, to be honest. Um, let's just touch on the a couple of the other teams that are still in here to mention when we're looking at we'll do a bit more wildcard stuff after we do our differential draft in a minute. But Liverpool, we've got the obvious Mo Salah is obviously undroppable for this season. If you're thinking about getting rid of him as a gamble, you're an idiot. Don't do it. It's just it's this time of season when people go, oh, I'm just going to throw the kitchen sink at it. Well, just don't, because what you're doing is you're taking your kitchen sink out and being an idiot and then running the tap, to be honest, if you just get Salah. Don't get Salah. Anyone else from Liverpool, Scott? Anybody else that you're thinking about? Mr. Madrid?
I was going to say Conor Bradley, probably someone to look at. Obviously, Trent's out injured. Is he going to come back in the team? Like, if he's going to Real Madrid, league titles won, is he just going to be like, Conor Bradley, you're my man now, and just give him a run of games to get him ready for next season? So I think Conor Bradley is someone I would look at, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I would if I was on a slot. Trent's leaving. I mean, why would you play him? His title's locked up. Bradley's good enough. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Scott. Baz, anybody else for you to point out from Liverpool, or any of the other teams in particular that double? Maybe any other interesting shouts from City?
For Liverpool, it's quite difficult because Gakpo was on flames until he got injured. Diaz is obviously in and out of the potential team, so and plays that looks more better down as a centre forward, to be honest, and being like a false nine, like a Firmino. Jota, we all know what he can do, and then Darwin obviously produced the goods against Southampton, but that's not really hard to do. So it's very tricky to pick anyone out of them others apart from Salah. You could obviously look for a Canate, cheapest probably starting defender, 5.2 million.
Mhm.
I think he's going in my wild card. I think just for the fact that I'm looking at cheap defenders that potentially get attacking returns and also get clean sheets. I know they're hard to come by, but I just looked at goals conceded, and you're looking at like Everton don't concede a lot of goals, Liverpool, Newcastle, and a few others as well, and Arsenal. But Arsenal's cheapest one's Timber at 5.6. So, but if you get Raya, then that could be you're in for the Arsenal defence. City wise, you're probably not looking at anyone really apart from Haaland if he was fit, Mamouche, Kevin De Bruyne or Foden debate. Obviously, I've been stung with that coin flip before, so I might not look at that. And defence wise, probably be Guardiola as we touched upon for his attacking returns. So yeah, I think that's
I
about
love
it.
that. You won't really be looking at anyone but Haaland, and then rattled off five other names. I love that. Never
Yeah,
change.
he always looks him. Right, I know you've got a shoot in probably 5 6 minutes, Scott. So I'm gonna I've got Matt in the waiting room to do differential draft, and then we'll come back to wildcard chat. So let's see. Doing things live, is always fun. The FPL affairs veteran. Here he is. Gonna get schooled at differential draft, Baz. How's Matt done at differential draft? Has he won any weeks?
He's played one, won one, so he's on great form.
Oh,
He's got a good record on this.
hey.
Phil was up there as well with for a good record. I think he's played like 7-1-5. So yes, but Matt played one, won one. So hopefully it doesn't come true again.
No
Okay.
pressure, Matt. Nice to see you. How are you?
Yes, thanks for having me on.
You were supporting your team behind you, I can see.
Oh yeah, it's my generic backdrop for ours for the FPL Affairs podcast. So yeah, no fancy green screen. Um,
This isn't a green screen. I'm somewhere in Leeds City Centre, mate.
oh,
So,
good place, good place.
yeah, not so bad. Hopefully get promoted, even though I don't support them. But there you go. They're my second team. Are you still hungover from the weekend?
Don't drink, so
Ah, oh, not
so
like the
yeah,
other
it was
1,500
it.
Geordies.
If it would have been possible for me to go, would have done. It's just the various different public transport options were just non-existent with partly working at the weekend. So I was glued to YouTube for 3.5 hours watching the club's broadcast presented by Anton Deck.
Lovely. Well, they're almost as good at presenting as you and I, Matt. That's for sure. We should have got a call up, mate. Let's do differential draft. Who's first, Baz? Talk to me.
Well, we'll let the guest go first. Obviously I've had a
He just
torrid
he just
time.
won. Hang on. Right, hang on.
What?
How's he going first when he's one
It's
for
the
one,
guest.
Baz?
You've got. I'm being kind, aren't I? So yeah. So obviously, I thought I'll let the guest go first, and I believe I am gonna. I've literally deleted the little stats off my phone, so I reckon I probably lost. And then I think it was.
What is going on here?
That's
I
that's
deleted.
fine, isn't it?
This is his.
Deleted
This
it,
is
mate.
his section as well. This is the only bit he does. Right, preps for it. So
Right, I've
you've
got the graphic. Okay, right. So basically, Matt's going first, then me, then you, Alex, then Scott's going last because he won with 32 points. And
sounds
you've
like the
got
sea. Sounds like the whole season so far, doesn't it? Really, voice of the people. Guy doesn't pay any attention to winning the damn league. Anyway, off we go.
Um, I'm guessing position at a time, right?
Just pick wherever you want.
Whoever
Right.
you want first.
Oh, in which case I'll go Saka in midfield. 9%.
I'm going to pick Eze, 8.5.
Oh, you're so boring. You're supposed to go under one on everything, Baz. God, honestly.
I
Well,
would if
then
he was a keeper.
I've obviously got to go Mateta then, haven't I? At 7%. Here he is.
Who did you go for then? Eze.
Yeah, I went for Mateta.
All right, I'll go for. This put me off this. I'll go for the guy that's not returned in like 19 game weeks, but he's got a high ceiling. Phil Foden.
Con Foden. Voice of the people right there. Over to you, Matt.
Right. Okay. Evan Nielsen up front for Brentford, 3.5%, not Brentford, Bournemouth.
That is absolutely locked Baz in to going for Strand Larson.
Yeah, Evan Nielsen was obviously my striker. Yes, so Strand Larson, yeah,
Yeah,
2.6% owned.
that was the most locked in pick ever. I will go for Lacroix. I can never say his name. This is the centre back at
Right.
Palace because he's 1% bang on.
Sounds like a French wrestler. Jesus.
He does actually. Doesn't he? Get my under one
I'll
in
go. Is it me? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was going to go for him, but he didn't play the last game. I'll go for the other guy who doesn't return any points in fantasy football, Doku, at 1.5%.
Right. Okay. I'm going to go with the Man City defender Kusanov, 0.6%.
Yeah. Like that pick, man, was on my list as well. It was between him and Lacroix I was going for next to my under ones. So, Barry?
Ruben Diaz, 2.4%.
I'm too busy complimenting everyone else and not getting my next pick lined up. I will go for my trusty Moreno at 0.9.
On my list as well.
Yeah.
I'll go for Zabrani, 0.5%.
Great pick, Scott.
Oh yeah, I've got him. I've got the under. I'm going to go with Kepa in goal.
And off goes the flood of goalkeeper picks.
Ooh, I'll go for Pope, 3.6.
It was between him and Areola, wasn't it, Baz? And I was literally going for the flip, and I was like, please go Areola, because I was going to put, right, Areola, 4.7%.
Oh, Robin Smith is here.
Who have you got? Have you got a striker and a keeper left to pick, Scott?
Yeah, the worst positions, yeah. And it might be the other guy who very rarely returns any points. You know what I'm going for already. It has to be Hoyland. Yeah, Hoyland,
The man,
1.1%.
Rasmus. Last pick. Off you go, Matt.
This is the worst week I've ever had.
Right. I think now this is bonkers considering I've got no Palace against Southampton.
Go for Adam Walton. I'll give him a shout earlier.
I'm going to go with Jacob Murphy of Newcastle, 4%.
Yep. He was literally my next pick, Matt.
I was split between him and Barnes. I thought if I end up being stuck for 1% and below, then I've got Harvey Barnes for the next game.
That's how everyone feels about Harvey Barnes.
Is it me?
No, not yet. You've got a bit of time to pick Jose Sarr, mate. You've got a bit of time.
Yeah.
No, it's either him or another one, and I bet the other one's already gone.
Yeah, he will have done because there's only
Dog.
4 keepers on my list.
I'm gonna go
Sar's
for
the only one left.
I'm gonna go for Minutzi.
Of
0.2% owned.
course you are. You love Manuzzi, don't you? He's one of my favourites. I'm going to go for one of my other picks that I absolutely love. And I'm going to gamble he starts and go for Diogo Jota at 2.6.
Feel like this guy's been picked. Kepper?
Yes, he's gone. Yes.
Yes, cool. At least I know when he's been gone. And then guessing this guy's been picked. Nick Pope.
Yes.
Cool. So I'll go for Jose Sarr at
Yes.
3.2%.
Here he is, Jose Sarr. It
They
was
were the
nice this week.
3
There were
on my
4
list.
keepers. There were 4 keepers under 5% all to pick though, which was quite good, really. So Matt, do you want to read your team out?
So, if I wrote them down correctly, I've got Kepa of Bournemouth, 3.2% owned, Kusanov of Man City, 0.6%, Saka of Arsenal, 9%, Jacob Murphy of Newcastle, 4%, and Evan Nilsson of Bournemouth, 3.5%.
Barry?
Got Pope, Ruben Diaz, Eze, Minutzi, and Strand Larson.
Couple of strong teams there. I've got Areola, Lacroix, Jota, Marino, and Jean-Philippe Mateta.
Oh, the crow. Paddy Power did a thing when the wrestling was on where the guy dressed up as a crow, and it was hilarious if anyone's not seen that. And that just reminds me of LaCroix. Anyway, this is the worst team I've ever picked for differential draft. I hate it. Sabrini, Foden, Doku, Hoyland. Foden, Doku, Hoyland. There's a triple threat of trolls in this game.
Foden, Doku, Hoyland. You know what's funny? You could absolutely smash it this week as well. You never know with them guys, do you?
I won't.
It reminds me of the time where I picked Rashford and you all slate him and he doesn't performs like he was on flames.
There he is.
Oh, I got
Marcus.
just a humble brag from Baz there.
Reminds me of that time that I proved you all wrong.
What a guy.
Right. Scott, have you got a shoot and go play some football?
I do. Yeah, do that real life football thing.
Have fun. Go win. See you soon.
Yeah. See you later. Bye-bye.
Right. Let's get up, Matt, your wildcard team that was sent over to us, because we've been discussing wildcards. I don't know if you've managed to listen to any of what we've been chatting through so far. But we've got the wildcard team up here, and I'm interested to know what the FPL Affairs veteran is going to pick. Is this for 30 or 31, by the way? Is this week?
Jack and I basically were doing drafts for 30, which we did a short list in our Idiot's Guide to Wildcards, which we released earlier in the week, where we basically shortlisted each position and discussed why those names were there.
Nice.
And then in our Game Week 30 preview, which for one reason or another we've struggled to record, we were going to include a 15-man each. And actually doing it, because I've been planning to wildcard in Game Week 31 for ages. I've had pretty much a solid chip strategy since Game Week 23 or something like that, and that I've stuck to and stuck with transfers to navigate 29. But the one picture, sorry, it wasn't cropped so much. Once looking at it, it is making me consider actually playing it this week rather than waiting 5 days and seeing if we do get confirmation of any of the rescheduled dates. So provisionally, and this is only one sort of version-ish, I've got Pope in goal with Areola backup. Areola simply because if I play the bench boost as planned in 33, Areola's got Southampton.
Absolutely.
Back three, Gabriel, Gvardiol and Munoz. And then in defence on the bench, I think I've penciled in Kirkes and Milenkovic.
Yeah, that's what's in there on that one. I'm interested before you move on to the midfield on this one.
Yeah.
So with the bench boost 33 as an option, you've got obviously three guys there. I think who will all double in 33 at the back provisionally. Then
Yeah.
Kirkez and Milenkovic both don't double, but I think they both have half decent fixtures. We were discussing potentially the options of the cheap sort of Aston Villa defenders, or maybe throwing in another. I mean, I know you've got 3 Palace assets already, but maybe like a cheap Palace asset or something like that. What's made you go for Kirkez and Milenkovic over like some
Um,
double game week
I
guys?
mean, this isn't this isn't my final one. This one I took last night, the screenshot when I was polishing off the slides. And I have had rethinks because I very much was looking at um, combinations, goalkeepers and defenders. So, for example, if I went with Pope, I wouldn't get a Newcastle defender as well. And
Sure.
I think the only team really which I'd consider doubling up defence is surprise, surprise, Arsenal. So what I've got at the moment, budget wise, because I've got on the bench, um, when we come onto the midfield, there's ways I can raise some money, and I've kind of thought about those 2 defenders on the bench, potentially one of them being Timber.
Yep.
Um, Alternatively, swapping Pope for Raya, and where I would have had Timber, possibly having Livramento.
hmm Yeah, or potentially maybe even Burn. Is Burn still 4.4 or 4.5, something like that?
Something like that, but he's on 8 yellow cards. So
Hopefully,
I think
hopefully, don't get 2 more.
because of the cup final, everyone under the sun will be going Newcastle defence, Burn.
Yeah.
I look at the price, they'll just go Burn. If not, they'll go Pope. So yeah, the I think pretty much if I was wild carding, and actually that back three and my starting back three of my existing team anyway. So
hmm
if I don't hit the wild card before tomorrow's deadline, then I've got those 3 in defence. Um,
Yeah, I think that I think to be honest, Matt, I think that back three seems pretty much nailed on. If I'm wild carding, I'm almost certainly having that back three, which I almost certainly am wild carding this week. And I think in terms of defence, Kirk as Milenkovic, I might just end up going for like a Burn and a Conser or something like that, just so I've
mm,
got people that double. I don't know how well they rotate. But it's just for basically targeting bench boost 33 and then free at 34.
mm,
And then yeah, I agree. I don't like a double up at the back in defence, really. Like you've mentioned there as well, because I think everyone's defence has been crap this season, really, haven't they? Let's be honest. How many clean sheets as people get? Even when you've had double Arsenal, I had double Arsenal for a while, and I only had a handful of clean sheets out of that as well. So, but yeah, I think that back three in particular that you've got starting there will be hella template.
mm.
Because it's just a solid back three, isn't it? Just depends if people want to invest the money in Guardiola when he's not really returned that much recently. But City's fixtures are class, aren't they? Midfield, yeah, talk to us about
Um, well, a lot of people from whether that be that I've spoken to or watched videos or read comments is they want to see Saka play first before committing to him. And since there seems to be the vibe is getting there's more people are moving from 31 to 30 regarding wildcard because of just where fixtures can fall and how likely the rescheduled fixtures are going to fall in 33.
that.
So I'm just thinking, you know what, I'll do a little risk by going Saka from the off.
Yeah, I mean,
If
the thing is,
if he's
you know
fit,
Saka, mate. If he's fit, he plays 90 minutes.
yeah.
They flog him until he can't breathe. The poor lad. Like he's always going to play if he's fit. So yeah, I don't blame you for this pick. He looks like he's in training. Looks like he'll be back for me.
Salah obviously, template Sar. I've gone with Sar over Eze, partly due to price. Keeping Clive for now, because he's got some nice fixtures, and then when it comes around to 33, he'll most probably be one of the players that potentially makes way for a doubler of some kind. Shortlist at the moment is Rashford, depending on funds, or Rodgers. It'll be following how Villa are playing and what their play rotation's like with the Champions League around
Yeah.
that point.
hmm definitely something to keep an eye on. Absolutely, because it feels like Rashford starting cup games, not so much league games, doesn't it, at the moment? But then when he's on, maybe he's taking penalties now with the game against Preston, and then yeah. I mean, Rogers just seems solid, doesn't it, all season? And I like the Gordon pick, by the way. It seems incredibly solid all week. And I suppose one of the big things, isn't it? If you don't go Saka, you might go someone a bit cheaper, then you can upgrade Sarteza maybe. But I suppose that's where you were talking about funds earlier, weren't you?
Yeah, and one of that was Gordon down to Murphy, because particularly if I was looking at also actually that's one of the differences trying to think about, because of template for people wildcard in game week 30 and 31, people are going to end up with similar teams. It's just sort of thinking, if I were to go in 30, excuse me, be thinking, where could I even gain a little bit of an edge over the people there? Hence why Saka, when some people may be trying to think off the top of my head now what other picks were being people that are going to hold off on Saka. So whether that be
Yeah.
to keep Palmer, since he's been pictured in training, and Jackson and Makaleli are fit as well, it's some people will be holding that spot
Mm-hmm. No,
elsewhere,
yeah.
and even doing Clivert to Saka in 33, which means I would have, right, game weeks 30, 31 and 32
Mm-hmm.
of Saka, and Arsenal's fixtures are all right.
Yeah.
Gordon again, I think a lot of people would be going with Murphy that are going
Mm-hmm.
this week. It would just effectively mean that I'd be benching Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
He's suspended. The question mark really is the severity of the hip injury he suffered for England. Really, that's the doubt for me.
Yeah, I think what you were talking about funds. I think him out for Murphy is a relatively
Yeah.
easy one, really, because Murphy's going to play. He's been on good form this season. I know he's a little bit more hit and miss, whereas Gordon's definitely the more consistent option. But again, with funds, etc., it, it makes sense as a move.
Yeah, the Murphy versus Gordon, so to speak. Gordon's more of the goal scorer. Murphy's more the old school winger rather than inverting. He's quite happy and content, and his strongest foot is his right foot. And him and Isak he's assisted Isak quite a lot of occasions this time. I can't remember the exact number, but eight eight combinations I think between the two of Murphy
Yeah,
supplying Isak.
something like that. Yeah, I've seen that as well. There was a stat on X, I think, and I saw it. Yeah, they work really well together. I mean, there's no way he's getting dropped, and I suppose that leads us on to your front three, which is, I
He's
mean,
got no Murphy's got no competition on the right since Almiron was sold. If anything, it would be when Gordon comes back, possibly Barnes playing on the right.
yeah, it
But
doesn't seem like something that Howe wants to do, really, though, does it?
no, not at the
Um,
moment.
and then your front three is, I mean, to be honest, it's the Haaland injury. It's the most template front three ever, isn't it, at the moment?
Isak, Mateta, and Marmoush. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think the only real sort of difference thing when I was weighing up, the only way I could get Haaland in really to a degree, I was sacrificing Mateta for Evan Nilsson.
okay, yeah.
But that's not an issue. That's not an issue at the moment.
Yeah.
Baz, your thoughts on the wild card? You've sat there patiently, you've sat there quietly. You've been
Yeah,
thought processing. What do you think?
I was listening to it, and when obviously I heard Rashford pick up, I was like, oh, there we go. He's going to score some goals. As obviously our little wages coming off.
It's all right if he takes pens against the championship team, mate. But yeah, sure.
All right, all right. go score him, mate, aren't you?
Yeah, that's true.
I
would-
like since we obviously I mentioned Aston Villa. What about Incensio?
Mm,
But he's looked pretty decent. Obviously, Rashford keeps setting him up as well. So, and he's coming off the bench and making a massive impact. So, I think he's gonna get a league start sooner rather than later. I think
Mm,
he could be, and he's cheaper than Rashford as well. So 6.1 and Rashford 6.4 or 6 or something like that.
6.6, I
So,
think.
yeah.
6-6, yeah, six
So
six is, yeah.
yeah. So with that, I think he'd be a good shout, and I think it's going to be a good differential for people going forward with that. But yeah, I like the team. I think if I was wild carding, I think yeah, the two goalkeepers, you can't go wrong with that. Obviously got good fixtures for game week 33. And Saka's definitely worth the risk of getting him on early because we've all been stung by waiting another week, and next thing you know, his price goes up, skyrockets, and you can't afford him. So, yeah, I like it. Can't grumble at it. For me, the only issue is, and you know what I'm like, Alex, too much money in defence.
Yeah, I think, look, for me, Munoz is as obvious as it gets. I think Gabriel
Mm,
is the same. I think the only real like gamble, but not and with terms of an amount of money that's being spent, is on Guardiola. Just considering the amount
mm.
of attacking returns he's got this season compared to, he's just an annoying player, isn't he? Because if you don't have him, he seems to seems to return when you don't have him. Um, what was your alternative, Matt? If you didn't go for Guardiola and potentially another cheaper option, would it be then you'd sort of maybe looked at a Villa defender or another Newcastle one maybe or something like that?
Well, I said about doubling up on Arsenal defence.
Yeah,
So
Timber, yeah.
Timber's the cheaper end of that. I think Lewis Skelly's actually down as a midfielder, isn't
He
he?
is, yeah. Yeah, he is, yeah.
A shame.
So he can't go in there.
Well, maybe if you wanted to downgrade, I mean,
Canate was an
yeah,
option
5.2.
because
Mhm.
Liverpool have got, I think, Leicester in 33.
Yeah, they Liverpool have got Leicester away, yeah, in 33. Yeah.
So
So
for a bench boost, a single game player is um, not
mhm.
too bad of an option.
Have you used your
Part
assistant manager
part
chip
of it
already?
part of it though is that the clubs that are being targeted, that are doubles and fixtures, there's not a huge amount of premium players that are on form that you choose from those. So
Hmm.
you've got more money in a way available and better options at cheaper midfielders.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you do. I think as always in FPL, and you've played for many years, Matt. The midfield is always the area, isn't it? Like it just feels like if you're gonna win your mini league, it's getting them transfers right in the midfield location on your team is that's the position that's make or break really.
Mm.
Some seasons back in the day, maybe 10 years ago, whatever, you had your selection of strikers a little bit more. But
Mm.
yeah, now it seems to always be in your midfield area, if not. Um, Interested to know. So have you used your assistant manager chip yet?
Yes,
Yeah.
hated
If
it.
you, yeah, awful, isn't it? We hate it on this podcast too. It's really gets. He's got a bad rep across the board. My conundrum at the moment is basically I either use it later on in the season to probably take into account double game week 36. So I only get one
Mm.
double game week, use it 36, 37, 38, or 35, 36, 37. Or I wildcard this week and use it in 31, which then means obviously I can't bench boost in 33 because
Mm.
the only chip I've got absolutely locked in would be the free hit on 34. That's always going to happen. Would you, if you were in my shoes, wait a week to wildcard or even wildcard now,
So,
bench boost 33 and assistant manager later, or would you assistant manager 31,
uh,
33 and bench boost
what
later?
chips have you used?
Just triple captain.
Just triple captain. Mm.
So my options are wildcard 30, 31,
Yeah,
bench boost 33, free hit 34, assistant manager later, or wildcard
with
30, assistant manager.
with the assistant manager chip, are you going to be one who seeks table table bonus, or or are you have a
No,
mix?
no, probably not. I think if I use it, it'll be on how 31, 32, and then make a decision 33 whether I transfer it to Palace to go for the table bonus and gamble against Bournemouth and Arsenal, or it would be a case I go probably then to Arteta for the double game week against Ipswich and Palace. So it'll be how 31, 32, and then debate if I want to gamble on a table bonus 33, which depends if I'm still in the cup after the first round, probably as well. Yeah, so that'd be what I'd do.
Well, from I think the playing at the 35, 36, 37, or 36 to 38 is there are the opportunities for doubles in that potentially because of the clubs that get to the FA Cup final, because that clashes with game week 37.
Mhm.
And those teams that say, most notably Tottenham and Villa, who are scheduled to play each other in 37 as well, I think.
Yeah.
That top that both of them are in Villa still in the Champions League and Tottenham in the Europa, and I think the Europa final is
Yeah, it's
maybe
midweek game week, midweek
midweek
37.
37, I think it
It's
is.
midweek. Yeah, it's midweek. So if Villa make the final and Spurs make the final, then
Then
Spurs game has to move into 36. Yeah.
into 36. So therefore, you're looking at Emery
Yeah, it would be
uh,
Bournemouth,
as a
Tottenham.
possible, and
Yeah.
you've also got to weigh up whether there's the possibility of more fixtures with the doubles now, but then you're going to have teams on the beach, uh, when some clubs may end up doubling.
I think
So
the other factor that's really got me is the fact that there could be no double in 36. And there could be no double
mhm,
in blank in 37. Like we just literally don't know what's going to happen there. Whereas using the assistant manager chip right now in 32, 33
mm,
means I'm guaranteed 5 fixtures from my assistant manager chip. Whereas I use it later, I might only get 3.
yeah, that's
Probably
the
4. But
that's the safe bet I think to use.
yeah.
Um, because so yeah, wild card this week, assistant manager 31, 32, 33, free hit 34, and then you've got bench boost. And realistically speaking, though, the bench boost, which lots of people are looking at 30, even 32 or 34, is that those teams doubling, there's 4 teams doubling in likely to double in 33.
Mhm.
That's a maximum of 12, which means on your bench, you're going to have at the most 1 doubling player and 3 singles.
Mhm.
So if that's the case, then as you can quite easily on a single game week with decent fixtures have a better option for a bench boost. Doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily have to be a double because the double's not as big as it could have been. So
It's
like
what
if
we're thinking.
Bournemouth had Bournemouth have won,
Yeah.
then you'd be looking at Bournemouth players and Brentford players.
I think it's what
But
we've all been saying, I think, since early doors, haven't we? The bench boost chip this season feels like playing it on a good single game week seems so. We've said it on the podcast
mm,
100 times already, and I know that Scott played it in a single game week earlier. It's one of those where even if it's a mini double or something, if you've got one doubler on the bench or you've just got a good set of fixtures, it's probably
if
the weaker chip.
if I didn't have triple captain chip left, then I'd be very tempted to bench boost in 32 instead because I looked at my wild card squad, either one similar to the one pictured or the one I'd penciled in for 31. The bench for 32 looked really nice.
Okay.
It looked like good. Was a I think I even had like Arsenal defense, and they were have playing Crystal Palace.
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, City were
so
City probably
I'm getting muddled with weeks. No,
no fun.
yeah, it was City. It was having, yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head, but
No, it
yeah,
was
it's like
City.
if I
City had Palace. Arsenal played Brentford. And they were both teams were playing at home. And there's fixtures
mm,
in 32 as well. And then obviously Palace had two hard away games, but they've got City and Newcastle away. But so I take it from that, Matt, that you're then triple captaining Isak in 32.
yeah,
Cool.
highly likely.
You're there, Baz, as well, aren't you?
Yeah, but it's the factor of Ireland, Southampton, Bournemouth that I might hang fire on it. But then I've shot
It's
myself in
the
the foot if there's no double game week. That's the only issue. It's like, and even if you might not be fit, so it's a
And
tough one.
uh, who as well for yourself this season? About like I'm just going to get their statistics up now, but between the two teams, I mean, who's even got the most points between the two players this season? Total score: Haaland's got 171 against Isak's 169. So they're basically at the same point. Haaland got half of those points in the first 5 weeks or something, didn't he? It was
Yeah,
absolutely mad, his
I've
start to the
seen.
season. Whereas Isak, well, I mean, to be fair, Isak's only got two returns in the last six games he's played. Yeah, because he didn't play against Liverpool. So he's only got two returns in his
that was
last one,
tactical.
6, 7. Well, probably, yeah.
Well,
Um,
how Eddie, how I'm going a bit off FPL, so I'll keep it brief. But how did admit in when interviewed after winning the Carabao Cup that in the league game they deliberately set up differently. They tried to win the game just a different way, just not as they intended in the cup final, just so they didn't show their hand, and it also meant that Van Dijk didn't get an extra practice against
yeah,
Isak.
yeah, I really like that thought process, to be honest. I mean, let's be totally frank. I mean, that's the biggest game in Newcastle's club history, like to win in 70 years. At the end of the day, you've obviously had a couple of other cup finals in there, a couple of them against my team, to be honest, and it's just ended up not going your way on the day. But yeah, it was massive for you to win that game. So, and there's not one person here that wasn't cheering you on, especially as a United fan when you're playing that team. But anyway, there you go.
Begrudge to
Yeah.
say it.
Hmm?
You begrudge
Ah,
to say it.
well,
Is it
there's
Liverpool you're trying to make fun
Premier League winners,
Mm.
unfortunately. But there you go, 20 each. But it's all right. When we win the Europa League, it'll be one trophy for Amarin and one for Slot, one for
Mm.
Howe. God, we'll all be equal, and you'll come 13th, Baz, won't you? Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, we'll just be mediocre in Championship for a good couple of seasons. But our game was at the weekend where we drew 2-2 and missed a penalty against Leeds. So yeah, but we'll take that all day
You
long.
had 12. You had 12 players in the end. One of them was in goal for Leeds, so I won't worry about that too
Hey.
much. Shall we have a quick discussion on captaincy then? Let's go on to that for both game weeks 30 and 31. If I can put my teeth in. Um, Anybody not going for Salah? Thoughts on anybody else?
Come on, Moosh.
What? Hey, listen. There's your
It's
differential shout, isn't
it's a
it?
viable. Well, the likes of Mateta and Marmoush are valid shouts. Um, I think the different being really is the thing with Salah really now is that if you don't captain him, then he's a spy in your team effectively, which means even if it's you're going to lose rank if you don't captain him. Um, and I think the fact that they're at home Merseyside derby, they haven't played since losing the cup final, and also how Everton got Tarkowski got the 98th minute or whatever equaliser at Goodison, they're they're going to be very motivated to go out for that game.
Oh, they'll be
All
well
guns
up for it.
blazing by a country mile. There would be anyway because it's a Merseyside derby, but I think there's lots of motivational points to put across. So yeah, mine will definitely be on Salah, whether I'm wild carding or not.
Yeah. They felt wrongfully screwed over by the extra time. I know Baz actually thinks that they were right, like I think they were screwed over because he didn't think there should have been that much time added on, but I think there should have been. I think it was totally within the right, and they lost the game because they slacked off. They lost the game, drew the game, felt like they lost, didn't they? But I do agree with you, Matt. Like that, if I would go into Anfield after what happened there, you know what Anfield's like.
Mm.
I wouldn't want to be an Everton player going into that game. That's for sure.
Colosseum,
Yeah,
walking into the Colosseum, right, isn't it?
feels that way. It's a great place to go, by the way. I just went there a few weeks ago. It was amazing. Rome's amazing. Yeah, I agree. Marmoush is a shout. Leicester, obviously, they're at home as well, City, which makes a big difference. And Leicester are awful. So it makes it, like I say, makes a difference. My worry is about Mateta, and why I wouldn't be captaining him is exactly what Baz said earlier in the podcast about his performance at the weekend was pretty mediocre.
And they're away.
And they're away as well. So for me, it's a Marmoush gamble because we know what he can deliver, but they are playing a bad team. But yeah, it's Salah all day. I think it has to be. Baz, your thoughts on that?
Exactly the same. There's no point covering any more than that.
Yeah, fair.
I think it's either Salah or Moosh, to be honest.
Yeah, I totally agree. Deadline for Saturday, 11 o'clock, where Everton Arsenal is the early kickoff on TNT. Thoughts for captaincy in this one, lads? We've got a Manchester derby, which is very, very exciting. And then we've got Liverpool. Sorry, Liverpool. Leicester are playing Newcastle in this one. Liverpool away at Fulham. And we're looking at Isak. Is it very relatively straightforward
I
again?
think it's straightforward because you're not going to wild card any Spurs players in because you want to be having like a Slanky or a Son or Madison, even though he hasn't been playing well. But I looked at his stats and he looks like he always gets around the goal involvements, but he's been in and out of the team. So for me, I think it would just be Isak on that.
Yeah, fair enough. Matt, your thoughts?
It's a tricky thing, really, because looking at the weaker teams you would target for opposition, um, Ipswich and Leicester are at home rather than away. And it's that age-old conundrum of how midfielders that extra point for a goal and a point for a clean sheet, which even though Liverpool are playing Fulham, I'm just trying to do my maths again. So like Salah gets a typical goal, assist, 3 bonus, and Liverpool find a way of conceding, then Salah would get what, the 2 appearance points, 5 points for a goal, that's 7, the assist, 10, bonus 30. So you're looking at what, 13, 14 points ish for a goal and assist and the bonus. Isak would have to get
Two returns, really, wouldn't he?
at, at least 2 goals. And even if he got 2 goals, he wouldn't necessarily get the assist. But
yeah,
then to be fair, he's
he'd
quite
probably get the
capable.
same. Yeah,
He's
he'd get the
quite
same amount of
capable of
points, wouldn't
getting.
he? Yeah.
He got a hat trick away at Ipswich earlier in the season. Leicester's
Yeah.
defence as well. So
They're terrible, yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing. It does depend on how Isak looks in the game this week as well, a little bit. Because I know obviously he's been nursing injuries and this, that, and the other, but they've had a little bit of time off. And did he play for Sweden? Because they absolutely battered.
yeah,
Was it Ireland?
the first game they played twice. The first game he played just over an hour, I think, and he was quite quiet for that. Second game against Northern Ireland, he got a goal and an assist.
Was it 5-1? 5-0? 5-1? They beat and they battered them, didn't they? But yeah, you look at his his form. I think as well in this situation, and I know past when you look in the past, you if you've got two players in form like a Salah and an Isak, they're both away from home. I tend to, if I go form over fixture. Generally, that's how I generally go for my picks. But then if I think they're similar forms, it's the fixture, isn't it? And I think at that point it would be a case of just Isak would edge it. And there's no one out there really. I'd thought. Baz, you think your captain?
Yeah, like I said, it's between them two, and it's highly unlikely because wild card in 30 and 31 is very rare that you're going to get a Spurs player in. So yeah, it's going to be them two.
I think to wrap up the pod, Matt, couple of things I wanted to ask you about. So you guys do your podcast.
Yeah.
When do you put it out, and have you got a regular day? How does it all work?
Well, we try to record on a Tuesday evening, with my various different other work and family commitments. It's got to be pretty much evening, like after 8:30. We usually record in one sitting. And we've explored through the season about structuring it, about reviewing the previous game week, then maybe having a particular topic or two topics, and we've sort of, as well as looking at the time for each pod, and Jack can waffle on quite easily, which means I've got to stick to the point a bit more. So sorry if I've waffled.
It's hard when you're not the host. I'm the one who's been like, right, this thing next. You know what it's like. You're the person who drives it and drives it and drives it and drives it on, and then the guests come on like Baz and list every single player in FPL.
Murotsi and Bellegarde.
So how we've kind of where we're at the moment. Every week we're doing a first episode will likely be the review of the previous game week, where we'll look at Jack's team, my team, then the key lessons learned from that particular game week. And usually that will take roughly half an hour, depending on whether there's intense talking points to take from the game week or not.
Yeah.
Or we might spend a little bit longer on our teams if either one of us has done amazingly well, or there'd been a lot of thought processes going into multiple transfers or so
That's
on.
the positive of having your own podcast, mate. You can just talk about your own team if you've had a good week. That's what I love about it. I've done really well this week, and then we could just skip over my team if I've had a bad one.
The problem was the week I think I did really well and got over 100 and got my game week rank was like 120k in the world or something that week. I think it might have been like a midweek game, because of both Jack's life and my life, and this is a hobby. It was trying to figure in, okay, when are we actually going to cover this? And then I'm currently on a run of 3 reds, I think, and he's on a bit of a roll of multiple green. So it'll be you talk about yours for a while, and then I'll just selectively. But lately, I've been very much on a 50-50, the wrong side of 50-50 decisions, and they've been like valid decisions. So like last week, it was like Gvardiol and a Forest midfielder, or Fernandez and a cheaper defender. I was 0.1 short of Milenkovic. So in the end, because I couldn't think of or decide on a cheap defender, I went with Gvardiol, and lo and behold, the Forest midfielder was literally flip of a coin between Gibbs White and Alanga, and lo and behold, I got Gibbs White. So
that's to be fair. I mean, if you ever were privy to our WhatsApp group, it's basically me talking about how I've lost the captaincy flip every week. That's literally how this season's gone, isn't it, Baz? Like, I had a Bruno Wood one this week.
Yeah,
fucking Bruno.
Also the goalkeeper rotation as well. I don't think, we never get that right. So We can't go in, right, let's stick with just a keeper and just have the other one as just a backup.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, going back to your question about our the FPL Affairs pod. Um, at the moment, we're looking at the three videos. Certainly, this time of year with chip strategy, we're looking at um, what we've sort of jokingly come up with an idiot's guide series where each one, and this is great to limit Jack's waffle, seriously, this way, is by having more detailed slides, which I share, where it's
Mhm.
basically he's reading it and he can't go too much off point, which
Yeah.
means so far in the series we did Idiot's Guide to the Assistant Manager chip. We've done an Idiot's Guide to chip strategies. This week, we did Idiot's Guide to blank game week 29, and we'll rejig that for 34. We did
Yeah.
wild cards
I like that, by
one,
the way,
and
the
then
idiot's guide you're talking about,
yeah,
because from a podcast perspective, something I've thought about quite a few times is that every single podcast we do is so time stamped. Like, this podcast is why we've done a live one. I mean, it's dead as of Wednesday. Like, literally nobody cares. I'll put this out tonight. If someone doesn't
mm,
listen to it in the next 24 hours, it's dead.
yeah,
It's almost pointless. So with the idiot's guide stuff, it's good to have something that isn't time stamped that you can basically go
mm,
back to every year when you talk about an idiot's guide. If you don't make it game week specific, and something
yeah,
that we consider doing, it means that you've got a separate YouTube or playlist of
yeah.
stuff that
And
you can always go back to.
the wild card one we did this week. I did that as well with the wording of the slides, and because we've largely done with each of them, the first few slides have been what's this chip. So on this occasion, it would have been what is the wildcard chip? A few key points of what it is. Okay, when might be a good time to use it, and then just a few points of which game weeks, and then slides on specific ones. And from how we've worded it, the bulk of that I'll do a new so for 34 that was a wild card one actually. I'm getting muddled myself now. Oh yeah,
Mhm.
the blank game week one. Because for blank game weeks it was a lot more, this is what it is, this is what a blank game week is, this is why you're using it, and so on. And that, because it was so general, um loads of it I can just, when we rejig it, or just reissue a chunk of that video, and then we'll just, the slides at the end, which will be more game week specific, will effectively, in our new recording, we'll just pick straight up from that.
Nice. No, it's good. It makes sense. And one final question I had for you, because you talk about overall rank. Is that how you sort of rate your season, or do you do it by your mini leagues? Have you got a couple of mates mini leagues, or have you got an FPL
Um,
Affairs mini league?
it's, I think for me, it's changed over the last few years because I first got into it with mates from uni who set one up with their work thing. So I was very, very casual for a long time, where some seasons I didn't play, like the season Newcastle were in the Championship, didn't play those seasons. And then I think it's only really been the last maybe 4 seasons, include yeah, this being my fifth, where I've actually proper spent a lot more time and effort into it. Um, and the last two prior to this one, where I've actually been watching content creators, a lot of it before that, when I started taking it seriously, a little bit more seriously, and putting more time into it. I was I was largely going quite template, and just each week, right, who are the most transferred in players, who's got the most, which players have got the average points per game over the last six, and
Mhm.
if I could afford them, I transferred those players in. That was basically what I did. And then last couple of years put more time with watching content creators and thinking more long-term plan, and that did a big jump. So last season I finished 26k.
Strong.
Season before 68, I think.
Nice.
But both of those weeks I had horrible game week. I had horrible game week 38s because I think the 2 years ago I was just outside the top 50k, and I can't remember what I did, but I basically put a little either differential captain or something to try to just get me into that top 50, but it didn't work, and I dropped a bit further down. And last season I was about 22k, and I thought I want to try and get into that top 20, and it backfired, and I dropped just outside the top 25. And this season started horribly. Game week 10, I was 4.5 million.
Oh, you were Baz then.
Yeah, that's where I am now, mate. Well, no.
So yeah, up to 439 now. I had like 10 green arrows in 11 weeks following that.
Strong.
Um,
Mhm.
so
Yeah,
hey
it's
ho.
interesting. I just find I've always looked at my mini leagues, to be fair. I mean, I had one season where I was 10k, and then I've had a few where I was sort of 80s and stuff like that. But generally for me, I always just look at the mini league because it's like you talk about with Salah's a spy in your team. I mean, he still probably is in in your mini leagues as
Mm,
such, but at least there's a chance of maybe going differential against your mates that you play in your eight mates or something. You can
mm,
make that bigger jump rather than if you're just doing it against overall rank. I find the conversation overall rank sometimes quite suffocating because it's like you are playing against effective ownerships and da da da. I mean, I've played FPL probably serious about 10 years, and
mm.
I've got to the point about 2 or 3 years ago where I was just like, I hate overall rank so much. I just end up just literally just looking at my mini leagues. I think I'm about a millionth at the moment. I think I can't remember where I am, something like that. But
The,
um,
the only mini league I'm actually, although I'm in quite a few, the only one I'm actually paying much attention to is the one Barry's in as well. The admin one for the FPL Affairs Facebook group. That's the only one. I think I'm out of the I think 12 or 13 teams that are in there.
Yes, yes.
I think I'm fifth in that. But I think the problem is because as an admin team we're talking, some of us more gibberish than others every day in a messenger group, is
Yeah.
we end up talking sometimes so much about our teams is that the ones near the top to some degree may well be thinking, right, what's what's player, what's Matt doing, or what's Jack doing, or
it's just the worst
what's
way to
Barry
fucking
doing,
FPL, though, isn't it? It's just the worst way. You've
or
got to
whichever.
play it your way, ain't you? That's
Yeah, no one worries about me. I'm like down, I think 10th or 9th or something like that. I don't
The
want to get too high. I might get a nosebleed.
the
Um,
Facebook
so
the
yeah,
Facebook the Facebook
Mhm.
FPL Affairs Facebook group,
Yeah.
that's what, just under 65k
mm,
Mhm.
in the group, which it has been for a long time, and I'm not going to get sidetracked into a discussion on that. Um, but yeah, the like Jack was runner up in that last season, and he won the cup of the league last season.
It's a good year.
Um,
yeah,
so
smashing.
yeah, he was well there. He had a this season he got stuck in a bit of a rut. He had an okay start, and then he was just sort of floating around the 200k for weeks and weeks and weeks. Like he'd get a green, then he'd drop down a bit. He found it very tedious and frustrating. Um, but yeah, so he's been climbing up, and he's got a good record the last few seasons. And the winner of the FPL Affairs, or FPL Hardcore, it's called this season. Um, the winner of that last season, who's an admin, he's Dave's not doing too sensational this season. His wife's doing better than him. Sorry, Dave.
He'll love that shout out.
If he will, because we all love shouting out our mates who aren't doing too well. I would say at this point. Anything else to cover, Baz? Should we wrap it up there?
Yeah, I think wrapped up. Yeah, nice hourly long chat. It's
Yeah,
always
it's
good.
been-
And
it's
inviting fellow FPL Affairs admin Matt has been nice.
Yeah, good. I'll wrap up for podcast listeners first, and we'll still be recording on YouTube, and it'll probably take me about 5 minutes to figure out how to stop the recording on YouTube, but we're all good. So just for now, thanks ever so much to everyone who's been listening and watching on YouTube, watching it back, and also listening on Spotify and all the other platforms that we get the listeners on, which we're always gratefully appreciative of. If anybody's listened to this podcast and managed to squeeze the time in to do so, we love that. And don't forget to like the video. And don't forget to click the little subscribe icon. And do not forget also to subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. Click the little bell. You'll get notification when we post it on the whatever platform it is. And follow us on our social media platforms of Pod or P on Twitter, Instagram, and if I ever do a TikTok, that'd be a great day. And also don't forget to also subscribe to the FPL Affairs Facebook group if Matt wants to expand his 65,000. I don't dare get into that conversation. I felt the tension on that one. I don't know what it was.
Well, it had previously been a different name, and then too many. It was just Fantasy Premier League, but then there seemed to be more and more groups with the same name, and by that point we'd started the podcast, so it was just, should we just change the Facebook group name to FPL Affairs as well?
Nice.
So it was like, yeah, fine. I'm not complaining with that. So yeah, if you want to find us or our group on Facebook, just search Facebook groups for FPL Affairs and our YouTube channel at FPL Affairs. Really?
Strong. No TikTok? No?
No.
Should get Jack to do some waffles on there. That'd be good by the sounds of it.
Oh, Jack and technology don't mix.
He can do a TikTok if he just that thing where he films his face for a minute and just has to waffle because it limits you to like a minute. So just say, right, Jack's 1 minute waffle about the last game week. I bet you get loads of views on that. I'm got loads of ideas. Right, I'm done. I'm signing myself. If only I had time to do it myself. Thank you ever so much for everyone for listening, and it's goodbye for now. Right, now I've got to figure out how to stop this share on this thing. Let's do this. I think if I stop sharing, that helps first. And YouTube is live.